Another day, another episode. These are all from an hour ago or less, so let's get started. The Fed could be banned from using facial recognition under the new bill. This is in America. Safari is going to use Face ID and Touch ID for frictionless web sign-ins. More on that. And iOS 14 has deaf users is now allowing deaf users to set alerts for important sounds, as well as some other clever accessibility perks. So those are our three short stories, and let's dive straight in. This is Dynamic Digital World, and my name's Luke. So first thing I want to do quickly is start off with a small announcement about the YouTube channel. So I will still be trying to get it up to date, which is why today's episode has come out at 11 o'clock at night if you're in the UK. And I am sorry for that having to be how it's had to go down. It's just what has to happen sometimes. However, I am definitely hopefully going to have it up by tomorrow's episode if I can't get it up today. The reason I won't be able to get it up today, not because I don't have any episodes to put on it, is because I want to have every single episode up to the very latest episode on there. Think of it as a way to make sure there's parity between each platform, as currently I don't have a way to auto distribute to YouTube, which is kind of annoying. So anyway, let's get into today's first story. And today's first story is about the Feds could be banned from using facial recognition, as well as also making it hard for local police to use it. Now, on Thursday, the Democrats introduced a new bill which will ban federal law enforcement from using facial recognition technology and make it harder for state and local police departments to use the same technology. The Facial Recognition and Biometric Technology Moratorium Act of 2020 would ban federal agencies from using facial recognition technology and force state and local police departments to enact similar policies in order to receive federal grants. The bill would effectively prohibit the tech's use until Congress passes a law explicitly allowing it. This is definitely good, and start quote, facial recognition technology doesn't just pose a great threat to our privacy, it physically endangers Black Americans and other minority populations in our country. As we work to dismantle the systematic racism that permeates every part of our society, we can't ignore the harms that these technologies present. End quote. That's definitely important. Facial recognition technology is still proven to be very unreliable. So, and yes, you may say that things like Face ID, which is going to be on our next story, have proven leaps and bounds ahead of it. But the fact is, it's just not strong enough yet, as far as I'm aware, to be used in police or federal law enforcement. I will say, I'm quite surprised to see it going towards feds and not police actually, like explicitly towards the police, as I would assume that the feds kind of have more reasoning to be using these sorts of things than police. So I'm definitely surprised to see the feds doing this. But nevertheless, it's good to be seeing this coming on. However, as far as I'm aware, the ones introducing this are all Democratic senators. So let's hope there is some bipartisan support. Now, on Wednesday, Boston did vote to ban the use of facial recognition in the city. So that's definitely a step towards it. So, hang on. Yeah, that was on Wednesday. California, New Hampshire, and Oregon all ban the use of the technology in police body cameras. Hang on, let's take a look at this a bit more detail about the use of it in police body cameras. Okay, I can't figure out why they're banning it specifically in police body cameras, but again, I'm assuming that just means the ones that police wear on their bodies. Makes sense, really. And it's also facing legal challenges. So the American Civil Liberties Union in Michigan filed a complaint with Detroit's PD, over what could be the US's first known wrongful arrest involving facial recognition technology. As the law enforcement believed a man named Robert Williams stole several watches from a local store last January after following a lead provided through facial recognitions. Williams was arrested outside of his home in January and spent over 30 hours in a detention centre outside Detroit. Now, yes, this was in January, and yes, it was 30 hours, but still, this is wrongful, again, it's wrongful arrest. And the fact is, that can put a lot of stress in someone's brain. I mean, just imagine if you were taken under arrest for something that you know you hadn't done. It's stressful. I can imagine it would probably be very stressful to people. So, they definitely need to be very careful with the use of facial recognition. Now, it would also directly target federal programs that dole out millions of dollars to state and local enforcement and corrections programs across the country, known as the Edward Bine Memorial Justice Assistance Grant Program, which made $264 million available to state police departments last year. Now, the support in Congress is apparently muted. However, if it won, then it would be a massive thing for privacy advocates. I kind of see both sides of this. On one hand, facial recognition technology needs to come at some point. I think the world is becoming very populated, and something like facial recognition technology could definitely be worth using. However, I do believe that when it does get introduced, when someone gets flagged, we need to take a look at that. We then also need to take a look at it. We also need to have a person take a look at it. So we can't just say, okay, he's been flagged, he's the guy. You need to have, after the flagging, in my opinion at least, you should have, let it flag when it's become, say, 99.99% accurate. Then, after it's flagged someone, you give it a quick once over. Just have a person there set at the control terminal for it. They give it a quick once over. If that once over says, I would say that was definitely a match. Because don't forget, these things could just be a simple miscalculation. If you have a person stood at the desk, whilst it doesn't make it 100% guaranteed, if you have someone there, it could catch that error. But it definitely shouldn't just be, okay, we want to use facial recognition, let's use facial recognition. We do need legislation around this. So let's go on to today's second story anyway, which is about Face ID and Touch ID being used for frictionless web sign-ins. Now, this means you won't have to enter passwords. So, hang on, there we go, okay. So, apparently, Safari 14, coming along with iOS 14 in the same time, apparently, will allow using biometric authentication methods for frictionless sign-ins on websites. You may not have to enter your username and password, or even rely on a password manager as the first time you punch them in. Now, this is built on the WebAuthn framework on FIDO2 spec. It's been used for biometric signs in the past, but Safari 14 will easily expand that to a large portion of the Apple ecosystem once web developers make use of it. Now, you will have to wait until the releases of iOS 14, iPadOS 14, and macOS 11, I think it is now. Yeah, macOS 11 with Big Sur. Definitely a bit of a shock to see this, but they say that it will happen this fall and you'll be able to use face and finger-based logins, as biometric sign-ins encourage to use more complex passwords as you won't enter them so often. That's hard to crack. So, personally, I rely on a password manager. I'm not going to say who it is or what brand it is for obvious reasons, but I rely on a password manager, and I actually don't know my passwords. I know a select few of my passwords, but those ones I'm actually trying to unlearn and change. So if I know a password, I'm going to try and change it as long as it's convenient. The reasoning for this, because it might sound like, oh, why would you not want to know passwords? if you don't know your passwords yourself and you just press a copy button, like, okay, the only password I will know is the master password to my account. If I don't know any other passwords from that, then I don't have to worry about someone finding out my password because it's an easy to crack password because I don't know my password, so it can't be anything to do with me. So, I don't know, but again, still, Face ID and Touch ID do seem quite risky. But let's see, don't forget Apple devices do have very strong Face ID especially, so it could still be a win. Now, in other Apple news, it seems like we've got 2 Apple-related stories here. It's about iOS 14 and accessibility perks. This is not something I expected to be seeing anytime soon, but hey, this one is from TechCrunch. Sorry, I just realised I actually forgot to name our sources for today. So today's accessibility news about iOS 14 is coming courtesy of TechCrunch. The Safari story is coming courtesy of Engadget. And the Fed's facial recognition ban is coming from The Verge. This is definitely very interesting to see, actually, and I also have to say, I think this is the first episode I have had 3 stories from 3 completely different sources, so I'm glad about that. Anyway, so let's go on to today's third and final story, and it is absolutely boiling hot in here. I can't wait to finish recording this episode and turn on my fan. It's absolutely boiling in here. Anyway, so iOS 14 will officially be allowing deaf users to set alerts for important sounds as well as other clever accessibility perks. Now, as a few smart features intended for use by people with hearing and vision impairments, but could be helpful for just about anyone. The most compelling one is sound recognition. So say there's a siren, a dog bark, a smoke alarm, car horn, things like that. It could basically send a notification. So if you're hard of hearing or maybe you're listening to music, this could be useful to have. And you can also have it go to your Apple Watch. So if you've got an Apple Watch, then it's more convenient to see things on your Apple Watch than your phone. Especially if you want to check if the oven has gotten up to temperature. Apple is also working on adding more people and animal sounds as well. So it definitely has room to grow. This is useful for hearing impaired people. It's also, as I said, nice for people who get lost in their music. Or, hey, what about a podcast? Say you're listening to an episode of Dynamic Digital World and the baby is screaming in the nursery. Yeah, it's easy to get lost in one of these. They're pretty entertaining and they're pretty informative. So you just set this up on your watch. So when it detects sound, you get a notification. Get lost in your podcast. Your watch vibrates. Oh, look at that, baby's crying. You can stop the podcast, go for that. Same for a fire alarm, same for the dog. Makes it very easy. Also new in the audio department, however, is what Apple is calling personal audiogram. It amounts to a custom EQ setting based on how well you hear different frequencies. Now, it's not a medical tool, so it can't diagnose hearing loss, but it will be done with a handful of audio tests. However, as is probably quite predictable, it will only work with Apple branded headphones. I'm not too surprised by this, I just think it's, foreseeable, as I wouldn't be surprised by this happening. Especially as Apple kind of know that it will work with their headphones, you don't know it will work with every other kind of headphone. So you could have a 20 quid pair of headphones or you could have a 200 quid pair of headphones, you know what I mean? So definitely smart of Apple to actually start off with their own branded headphones. We don't know whether they will or they won't expand it, but it's definitely good to see these sorts of things. Another feature is real-time text conversations. So it's an accessibility standard that basically sends text chat over voice call protocols, allowing seamless conversation and access to emergency services for non-verbal people. It's been supported by iPhones for some time, but now users don't need to be in calling app for it to work. Do a call while you play a game or watch video, and conversation will appear in notifications. The last feature intended for use by the hearing impaired is an under-the-hood change to group FaceTime tools. Normally the video will automatically switch to whoever's speaking, but sighted language is silent. So in iOS 14, the phone will recognise emotions as sign language, and do the switch to view from that participant. Now, it will not be able to transcribe these, as it doesn't recognize the specific signs, but it will recognize that it's doing that person using sign language. VoiceOver is a smart screen reading feature that's been around for more than a decade and is now being enhanced with machine learning models. So this will allow it to recognize more interface terms even if they haven't been properly labeled, as well as in third-party apps and content too, and will make its way to the desktop, but not quite yet. Also, descriptive chops have been upgraded, so it will now analyze a photo's contents and can relate them in a rich way. So instead of saying two people sitting, it might say two people sitting at a bar having a drink, or instead of dog in the field, a golden retriever playing in field on a sunny day. I don't know if it, obviously I don't think it will be getting it 100% right, but it's definitely good to see. Magnifier and rotor controls have been beefed up, and large chunks of braille text will now also ban. Also, if you're someone with vision impairments, then you'll be happy to hear that SwiftCode and Xcode have received lots of new voiceover options, as well as making sure common tasks like code completion and navigation are accessible. That's definitely good to see, actually. That's good for people, actually. That will make it a lot easier for more people to get into coding. Now, one of my favourite features of what I can see is the backtap feature. Now, it's new to Apple devices, but as with most of the things in iOS 14, unfortunately, it's been seen on the Pixel phones and other Android devices. Basically, it allows you to tap on the back of the phone 2 or 3 times to enable a shortcut. So say if you're trying to invoke the screen reader, or your other hand is holding the dog's leash or a cup of tea, it's useful to just about anyone since you can customize it to anything. Now, the feature is now limited to phones with Face ID, so iPhone 8 and iPhone SE users, otherwise anything below the iPhone 8, are all out of the cold from this, as it's hard to imagine that there is no no secret tap detection hardware involved, as there are. Yeah, so it probably uses accelerometers without being an iPhone since the very beginning, but Apple isn't a stranger of holding features hostage for no reason, as notification expansions that aren't possible, such as the notification expansions that aren't possible on a brand new phone like the SE. But this is a feature intended for accessibility, so it's unusual, and they did not count out the possibility that the back tap would make its way to button-bearing devices, but will also not commit to the idea. So it could come to the button devices with a button on it, but we don't know that yet. Now, obviously by button bearing we mean home screen bearing, home button bearing devices, as obviously they all have power button and others, other volume rockers. But still, you know what? Still good to see Apple kind of going into these places. So these are definitely 3 interesting stories, and it's good to see Apple going with some nice accessibility features coming out today. Now, it is actually currently 9:23, so setting the episode to release at 11. I will probably just set them to release now, to be honest. So I'm really sorry again, everyone. The YouTube channel is not up again. I've been promising it, or I've been saying it should happen soon for the last few days. It's just setbacks with installing software, downloading files. For example, I'm now going to have another one to download and set up tomorrow. But hopefully I can just leave these sorts of things running. I can just get them all done in the next hour in terms of all the sequences, leave them to run overnight and all through tomorrow if I have to. And by the end of tomorrow, and by tomorrow evening at 9 o'clock, or possibly, hopefully by 10 o'clock, I'll be able to just have them all already uploaded with the time set to 10 o'clock. So I want to explain the rollout for when it does happen. Again, we don't have a date. I can't give a date until I've got all of the episodes are kind of caught up and ready to be released at the same time. But basically, they will all release at 10 o'clock on the same night. That night's episode will also release at 10 o'clock to ensure parity along all platforms. And from now on, any episodes that are released will be releasing at whatever the time they will be releasing on YouTube. I know the other platforms do have a bit of a feature parity thing in terms of how that's working, as different platforms do pick up on episodes at different times. But YouTube is kind of under my control to a certain extent, and if I can keep it under my control, then I want to try and have everything releasing at the same times. So, this is the Dynamic Digital World. Thank you for listening. I really do hope the YouTube channel is ready tomorrow, and I'll see you in tomorrow's episode anyway. Thank you for listening.